Ever get that feeling about a place? Like, it's not just a country, but maybe a whole planet squeezed inside one border. That's South Africa for me. They actually call it a world in one country. And, well, after digging into this amazing travel guide, I'm really starting to believe it. It's not just talk.
It is a bold claim, definitely. But this guide seems pretty determined to prove it. So our deep dive today, we're basically using this guide as our map to explore just how much South Africa really offers. We want to get past the shiny pictures and really understand what makes it so special.
Exactly. This guide, it's not just listing like nice beaches. It's showing this incredible mix of experiences. I mean, think about it. You could be spotting lions, actual lions, in the morning, and then like sipping amazing wine that afternoon. Same country. We're talking huge mountains, desert stretching out forever, unbelievable wildlife, and a culture that's just so rich, woven from so many different threads. Plus, the guide gives us the inside track on, the best times to go and how to figure it all out. So yeah, let's really get into this. What makes South Africa grab you like that?
Well, the guide kicks off right away with that a world in one country idea by showing off the incredible landscape diversity. It's not subtle stuff either. We're talking like major contrast. Picture the huge Drakensberg Mountains, right? Yeah. Then think about the dry, stark beauty of the Karoo Desert. And obviously the coastlines are stunning. You've got the rugged Cape Cliffs, then the almost tropical shores up in KwaZulu-Natal, plus forests, savannas. It's like a sampler platter of geography.
Right. It really is. And when you think Africa, you immediately think wildlife, don't you?
Right.
Especially the big five. The guide definitely puts lions, leopards, elephants, rhinos, and buffaloes right up front. There's something, I don't know, really powerful about seeing them in the wild. Hits you deep down.
It really does. And then the guide shifts focus, quite rightly, to the people. The cultural mix, 11 official languages. I mean, that says so much straight away about the diversity, doesn't it? The guide mentions loads of traditional communities, all with their own customs, their own history. So it's not just about seeing places. It's about engaging with different ways of life, understanding a nation built from so many different parts.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone who enjoys, the good stuff, the guide highlights the famous vineyards, especially down in the Cape, and this really exciting food scene that's apparently booming. Imagine that. Touring beautiful vineyards, tasting these world-class wines, they get their flavor from the local land, and then having some amazing creative food sounds incredible.
Precisely. And it's not all just relaxing and sipping wine either. The guy points out there's tons of adventure sports too for, all kinds of thrill levels. And then there's the garden route. Even the name sounds epic, doesn't it? It's clearly set up as a must-do road trip, links together all these amazing places.
Totally. And it's not just nature and modern stuff. The guide reminds us about the important historical spots all over the country and the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, too. That adds another whole layer, connects you to big moments in history, the story of the land.
Okay, right. Let's zoom in a bit. Some of these key places the guide talks about. First up, maybe the most famous postcard city, Cape Town.
Yeah, Cape Town. The guide presents it as just stunningly beautiful. And of course, the big focus is Table Mountain, iconic. It highlights that choice you have. You can do the tough hike up or just hop in the cable car for those amazing views straight away. And then the beaches, obviously. Loads of them, each kind of different. You got lively Camps Bay, then quieter spots further out. And it mentions those really unique neighborhoods like Bokop with all the bright colored houses. Tells such a story. So it's not just big views. It's these cool little city areas with their own vibe. The guide also makes sure we know about the key spots, Robben Island, for instance, where Nelson Mandela was held. That feels like a really, really important place to see.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very sobering place. Gives you real insight into the country's journey. Then you've got the V&A waterfront described as this really busy, buzzy area, shops, restaurants, entertainment. Sort of the modern heart of Cape Town. And a definite highlight mentioned is Boulders Beach, with the penguins, African penguins just hanging out on the beach.
Penguins on an African beach. It's brilliant, isn't it?
It's one of those amazing, unexpected things.
Yeah. And then the guide points towards Cape Point, Chapman's Peak Drive, really playing up the dramatic coastline and that amazing winding road. Okay, let's switch gears completely. Head northeast. Kruger National Park.
Right, Kruger. The guide positions it as like one of the absolute top game reserves in Africa.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is how it makes it sound accessible, good for first-timers on safari, but also for people who've done it loads. It doesn't sound scary or remote.
That's a really good point. Sometimes safaris feel a bit intimidating, But the guide mentions different ways to do Kruger, like guided drives with experts, staying in fancy lodges right in the bush, or even driving yourself around gives you that freedom.
Exactly. And it breaks down what you can focus on. Obviously, seeing the Big Five is huge, but it also mentions great bird watching, doing guided walks in the bush, getting really close to things, and even special photo tours. It seems really geared toward letting you tailor your Kruger trip, which is smart.
Okay, so from the wild bush to the biggest city, Johannesburg. The guide calls it the City of Gold, right? Talking about its mining past and how it's an economic engine now. Sounds like a place with real energy, complex history.
That's definitely the vibe it gives. And it specifically points to the apartheid history. The Apartheid Museum is presented as, like, essential visiting. To really understand that whole period, it stresses how important it is to engage with that history to sort of get South Africa today.
Absolutely crucial. And then it talks about the arts scene, like in the Mboning precinct. Sound like a really cool, creative, regenerated area. And Soweto Township tours get highlighted too, another vital perspective on the city. And for fun, Gold Reef City Amusement Park gets a mention. So Johannesburg seems like this mix of serious history, culture, and, well, modern life.
It's as a city of contrast, layers. A bit like South Africa itself. Right, let's head back towards the coast again, the famous garden route.
Ah, yes, that scenic drive we mentioned. The guide really paints a picture, doesn't it? Constantly changing views, cute towns, and suddenly you're in a rainforest and the lagoons. Sounds like heaven if you love being outdoors.
Totally. And the guide names some key spots, like Mesna, which is lovely, Plettenberg Bay for beaches, Tsitsikamma National Park for dramatic nature, and Oudtshoorn, that's the place with the ostrich farms, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the Kango Caves. It's amazing how the garden route packs so much different scenery into one stretch of road.
Definitely. More than just a drive. It's like an experience unfolding. Okay, last big destination stop, Durban, over on the East Coast.
Durban, yeah. The guide describes it as subtropical, beachy, and it really emphasizes the Indian influences there from history, gives a totally unique cultural feel. And it mentions a big surf scene too. Sounds kind of laid back.
Yeah, that comes across. And the guide points to Ushaka Marine World. That's a big aquarium, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Golden Mile beachfront. And of course, the Indian food and markets. Sounds like a feast for the senses. Plus, the Moses Mapida Stadium gets a mention, that big arch.
So Durban sounds like a different flavor of coast compared to Cape Town. Warmer, different culture. Exactly. It really shows how varied even the coastlines are in South Africa. Okay, so now we've got a feel for the places.
Yeah.
The big question for any trip. When should you actually go?
Timing. Yeah, super important. The guide breaks it down by season, which is really helpful. It says summer, like November to February, is best for beaches and the coastal cities. Cape Town, Durban, makes sense, warmer weather.
It does. Then, for wildlife, Kruger specifically. The guide points to winter, June to August. Apparently the vegetation is thinner then, so it's easier to see the animals, and they gather more around water holes. Makes spotting them easier.
That's really good info if you're planning a safari, definitely. And then spring, September, November, that's when you get the amazing wildflowers in the Western Cape, apparently. Sounds beautiful.
It really does. And lastly, autumn or fall, March to May. Described as having nice weather, fewer tourists, so maybe better for cultural stuff, exploring cities more casually. So yeah, the guide gives a pretty detailed picture of how the seasons affect different parts of the country and what you might want to do.
That's so useful for planning. Okay, so we know where, we know when. What about the practical stuff? The guide has some travel tips too, right?
Yeah, covers the basics. Currency is the South African rand, ZAR. Good to know for budgeting. And reassuringly, it says English is widely spoken. Even though there are 11 official languages, that makes things easier for a lot of visitors.
Definitely helps. Safety always comes up, doesn't it? The guide mentions being aware, especially in cities, using trusted transport, staying in reputable places. Pretty standard travel advice, really.
Agreed. Sensible stuff. And visas, it mentions that lots of countries get visa-free entry for tourism up to 90 days. But importantly, it says check your specific country's rules before you go. Always double check that.
Crucial pre-trip step. Yeah. And lastly, health. It recommends travel insurance, which is always smart, and mentions malaria precautions for some areas, mostly near the northern and eastern borders, sounds like.
Yeah, just about being prepared and informed. Standard travel health advice.
Okay, so stepping back from all the details, what's the big picture here? Does South Africa really live up to that world in one country label based on this guide?
Based on what we've just talked through from the guide, it makes a really strong case. We've seen the diversity in the landscapes, the incredible wildlife, the the mix of cultures, the history, the cities, the range of things to do, it does seem to offer something for almost everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, from the thrill of seeing the Big Five to those breathtaking views on the Garden Route, the history in Johannesburg, the charm of Cape Town and Durban. And we didn't even talk much more about the food and wine. It really does sound like a trip that hits all the senses and maybe leaves you thinking differently about things too.
It does. It feels like a place where you can connect with massive nature, dive into complex human stories, and see history laid bare. The sheer variety is it's pretty remarkable.
So as you're sitting there thinking about where to go next, maybe let South Africa linger a bit in your mind. What part of it grabs you the most? Is it the wildlife calling, the amazing coastlines, the deep history? Or maybe just the thought of that incredible food? Whatever it is, it seems like there's a piece of South Africa just waiting for you to explore.